Verse 14. The king answered not Moses, and it came to pass that Egypt was overspread with frogs and reptiles in every particular, even as Moses had prophesied. Nevertheless, Pharaoh pursued his course. Verse 15. Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Moses, my son, look upon man and pity him, for he believed not in me, though I multiply signs and omens continually, and give him prophecies without end. One thing only turns man's eyes inward, that is, flesh of his flesh lying dead before him. Now here is the Exodus, or the migration out of Egypt, called by Egyptologists the expulsions of the Hyksos. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 18, verse 16 to 23, it states, verse 16, Now on the night of the Passover, when the Israelites made the covenant of the blood of the Lamb, a hot wind blew upon the face of the earth, and the firstborn of the Egyptians fell dead, both man and beast. And Pharaoh's son died, and his brother's son died, and his brother's son, and the firstborn of every courtier and every noble's firstborn, and all other people their firstborn, so that in every family they lay one dead, just as the Apura Papyrus stated. Verse 17, Pharaoh was now stricken, but not unto repentance, for evil was in his heart. And he cursed Moses and the Israelites, and swore an oath to destroy Israel, men, woman, and child, so that nevermore should there be one on the earth. And such a commandment he sent to his officers to fall to, and begin the slaughter. Verse 18, As for the faithless, not many of them had slept all the night, but were providing for the journey. So that when morning came, and at the time of sunrise, everyone started from all the different regions of Egypt. They went forth to Succoth westward. The heads led the way, and every commune was led by a rabbi, and every man's family by the father of the family, or by the eldest son. And at the start they spoke through their leaders, saying, In thy name, O Jehovah, we depart out of the land of our birth, where we were born, and our sons and daughters were born, to return not forever. Neither shall Egypt prosper more till thou hast subdued the whole earth unto thee. Verse 9. But things had changed wonderfully as to the Egyptians, for when they had beheld the Israelites were indeed going, and knew the miracles that had taken place, they relented and brought them gifts of gold and silver, and also asses and camels for the Hebrew women and children to ride upon, and gave them food to eat. But the Israelite women said, Nah, we take these things, we will be under obligation to the Egyptians. The Israelites accept not what they can not pay for. Then the Egyptians bewailed in fear, saying, That we be not accused by the gods, take them. We beseech you in the name of our God also. Verse 20. So the faithless, the Hebrew women, accepted the presents of asses and camels, and of other things besides. And they mounted the asses and camels, and rode them. Verse 21. When Moses heard of this, afterward he rebuked Israel, saying, Because ye have accepted these things, it will be said, Ye borrowed them and begged them, so as to despoil the Egyptians. Verse 22. When they arrived near Succoth, Jehovah spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Stand ye here for 12 days, that ye might behold my people as they pass, and that ye in turn may be seen by them. So Moses and Aaron pitched their tents by the way on a high piece of ground, and remained there 12 days. And Moses showed himself before them, speaking and encouraging. Verse 23. After this, the Israelites passed through Etham on the borders of the wilderness, and hence toward Migdal, near Baal Zephon, the place of the oracles of the god Baal. And they encamped before Paha-Hiroth, where Moses commanded them to remain some days to rest. Now here's where the armies of Pharaoh were drowned in the Red Sea, or the Sea of Reeds. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 18, verse 24 through 28, it states, Now as for Pharaoh, he had not made an attack on the Israelites, for the Lord held his army in confusion. Pharaoh, finding that the Israelites were not injured, decided to take the field himself. Accordingly, having impressed all the chariots of Egypt, went ahead leading his army in person. The Israelites were wearied and footsore, and discovering that Pharaoh was after them, many of them complained and grumbled, saying, O Moses, why brought thou us from home? Better was it for us to have remained in servitude to the Egyptians than to be slain. Verse 25. Moses rebuked them, saying, Profess ye to be faithless, but ye have not faith in the Creator, Jehovah. Put your trust in him, for he will deliver you safely, as he hath promised. Verse 26. Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, They shall behold the salvation of my hand, for the Egyptians who pursue them this day shall pursue them no more again. For when thou fetchest them to the sea, thou shalt lift up thy rod, and I will divide the sea, and my people shall walk across on the land of the bottom of the sea, and the Pharaoh's army shall pursue, but be swallowed up in the waters. And it shall come to pass. Verse 27. Jehovah brought a strong wind and divided the waters of the sea and swept them back, and the Israelites went over on land. But Pharaoh's army, who were in pursuit, were caught in the flood of the tide and drowned. Verse 28. Thus delivered Jehovah the Israelites out of Egypt, and Israel believed in him and Moses, his servant. So here it shows you how the Israelites was delivered out of Egypt. Now here's the route after leaving Egypt. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 18, verse 20 through 31, it states, verse 29. Now from the place Sukkoth unto the other side of the sea, a pillar of cloud preceded the Israelites by day, and a pillar of fire stood over them by night. And the people looked thereon and saw every one the cloud and the light. And the name of the place they reached when they crossed over was Shakel Marath. And they camped there many days. So the Israelites beheld the cloud, which was a spacecraft. Some people say, oh, he talking crazy, there ain't no spacecraft. But common sense will tell you that on a terrestrial level, if we could build planes and go from country to country, common sense will tell you that the angels could build spacecrafts and go to star, planet to planet. Now, verse 30. From the time Moses began to put on foot the migration of Israel until he reached Shakel Marath was 4 years, 207 days. And the number of Israelites that was thus went forth out of Egypt was 3,750,000 men, women, and children. And the number of people who accompanied them was 400,000. So here is showing you that the Israelites numbered in the millions, and the mixed multitude that came with them only numbered 400,000. So that's showing you the presence the Israelites had in Egypt. And because they were of the uncircumcised tribes of ancients, the Hebrews named them Leviticus, Levites, imperfect flesh. Verse 31. And Moses commanded the Levites to camp aside and not to mix with the Israelites. And they obeyed him in all things, maintaining that they were the true descendants of Abraham. Now, here is the song of Moses sung by his sister Miriam about the Exodus. And the evidence of this song is inscripted on the Semitic inscription in Wadi el Mukatab, Senya, as I explained on the documentary Who Was Moses in Egypt. Now, Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 18, verse 32 and 33, it states, verse 32, And Moses made a song unto Jehovah, and Miriam his sister sang it, and played on the timbrel, and the women of Israel danced before Jehovah. Verse 33, This then is the song of Moses. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 19, verse 1 through 16, it states, verse 1, Allah, Almighty, thou my God, who has delivered my people, I will sing unto thee a song, and the children of Israel unto thee, O Allah. Verse 2, Thou art a great strength and salvation unto thee, Allah. Will I build my habitation, though my father's God, O Allah. Verse 3, Thou art my warrior, Allah, is thy name forever. Verse 4, Thou hast encompassed Pharaoh and his hosts, they are swallowed up in the sea, his chosen captains and his warriors in the Red Sea. Verse 5, The depths covered them up, they sank to the bottom as a stone, O Allah. Verse 6, Almighty Allah, glorious in power in thy right hand that passes over innocent blood. Verse 17, Though my God Allah, wise in majesty in thy right hand that dash in pieces thy enemies. Verse 8, Excellency, O thou Allah, in graciousness that came upon them that rose up in thy way. Thou sentest thy breath upon them. As stubble they were cut down by thy righteous sword. Verse 9, By the breath of thy nostrils thou heapest up the waters of the sea, and the flood stood upright by the voice to entrap them in the heart of the sea. Verse 10, Thy enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake them. The spoil shall be mine. I will draw the sword my hand shall destroy them. Verse 11. Thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them, they sank as lead in the mighty waters. Verse 12. Who was like unto thee, Allah, amongst the gods, who is like thee? Glorious in holiness, fearful in praise and wonders, O Allah. Thou stretchest out thy right hand, and they went down into the earth. Verse 13. Merciful Almighty Allah, my God, and God of my fathers, who hath led forth Israel and delivered her into the land of her fathers, O Allah, who has guarded them to a holy habitation and peaceful one. Verse 14. All people shall hear and be afraid. Sober thought shall take hold on the inhabitants of Palestine, and the nobles of Edom shall be amazed. The warriors of Moab, trembling, shall take hold on them, and the wild men of Canaan shall melt away. Verse 15. Though, O Allah, shall strike them with fear, in the magnitude of the strength of thy arm will they be amazed and helpless as stone. For this land is thy purchase, O Allah. In the Passover of the blood of the Lamb purchased thou it, and Israel shall pass over it in fear. Verse 16. And thou shalt bring them to the mountain of their inheritance, to thy place, our God, Allah, to dwell in the sanctuary which thou hast established for thy reign forever and ever. So here you can see that the song of Moses sung by Miriam is equivalent to the Semitic inscription in Wadi el-Mukatab, Senya. So here's more proof of these events of this Exodus. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 19, verse 1 through 22, states, Moses called together the heads and the rabbis privately and spoke before them, saying, verse 2, What have I taken upon me, O Jehovah? Behold, thy sons and daughters have followed me out of Egypt. How shall I bind them unto thee, and not unto me, O my Father in heaven? Verse 3, Jehovah said unto me, Moses, Moses, what I say unto thee, say thou unto the rabbis and unto the heads, saying unto them, Not Moses, nor the heads, nor the rabbis brought ye out of Egypt. Ye were brought out by the Creator, Jehovah, who is God of all, captain of all, head of all, rabbi of all. Verse 4, For herein have I drawn the line between my people and my enemies, the idolaters of men. Because of signs and miracles, the adulterers make a man god, their magicians, and worship them. But who is like unto thee, Moses, my son, in miracles who can match thee in the magnitude of thy proceedings? Verse 5, Who led forth millions and delivered them out of a great power without loss of a man, woman, or child? Behold, verse 6, But I declare unto thee, thou shalt do a great miracle than any of these, for thou shalt preserve thyself from becoming an idol before men. For thou shalt proclaim me unto thy people in all things, teaching them that thou art but a man, and thy heads and thy rabbis shall likewise teach them after the same manner. For all will put away all idolatry from the face of the earth. Verse 7, Nevertheless will I have kings nor queens, for I am sufficient unto all men. So this is why you don't have no pictures and images of the Hebrew Israelites, because we were commanded not to make graven images. The only images you get of the Israelites are of the enemies who are dealing with adultery. Like in 587 BC, the Babylonian captivity, you have inscriptions of how the Hebrews look because the Babylonians carved stone. Likewise with the Egyptians when we was in Kemet. Verse 8, As Abraham apportioned my people into families with rabbis and with chief rabbis, so shall thou reestablish them. Verse 9, And my commandments which I give unto Abraham will I give unto thee. My crescent will I reestablish with my rabbis, and my crescent shall be the fullness of my law unto the rabbis and chief rabbis. Verse 10, Moses said, I cried unto Jehovah, saying, How shall it be with the square and at high noon? And the angel of Jehovah spoke in the Father's name and said, To the northeast, God, to the southwest, Lord, to the northwest, Baal, to the southeast, Ashtaroth, for Osiris is dead already. Verse 11, To this end, then prepared ye a place this night, that the Great Spirit may bless us. The rabbi and the heads said, It is well. Verse 12, And when it was night, Moses and the rabbis and the heads went away aside, placing sentinels that they might be alone. And when they were thus prepared, the light of Jehovah came upon Moses, and the books of the ancients were opened before him, and he administered Emetha Shavat, which means Emeth means faithist, and Shavat means order of faithist. Upon them, by the voice of Jehovah, he re-established it, and with all the rites and ceremonies as they are to this day. And after that, the heads were no longer called heads, but chief rabbis, for Moses anointed them. By command of Jehovah, he anointed them. Verse 13. And not in many days Moses wrote the Leviticus law, for the inner temple of Jehovah was in spoken words only, but the outer temple was written. Wherefore it was said the Hebrews had two laws, one which no man else knoweth, and one for them who are not eligible unto faith, being such as were called Leviticans, but not Leviticans in fact, but hangers on who had followed the Israelites out of Egypt, and who were for the most part had no God, little judgment, and no learning. Verse 14. But of all that Moses did and taught, and how he labored with his own hands, many books might be written, and it is doubtful if the world ever produced so good and great a man. Verse 15.